Good day, everyone. I am Jules, your moderator for this webinar on the behalf of the organizer company called Conference Panel. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is called Mental Health Challenges in Workplace Ensure ADA Compliance. So now I would like to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. Susan Strauss. Dr. Susan Strauss is a national and international consultant, speaker, and trainer in organizational effectiveness and management development. She has established numerous onboarding new employee orientation program for both small and large organizations. So now I would like to hand over the floor back to our speaker. Over to you, Susan.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. And greetings, everybody, from Minnesota. Okay, so what are the objectives? Well, we're going to differentiate mental health from mental illness. You know, what is mental health anyway? And really, what is mental illness? We'll discuss some of the most frequent mental health conditions, but the emphasis is going to be on depression and anxiety and personality disorders. We'll identify the demographic groups that are most at risk for mental health. We'll look at some of the myths of mental illness. There's a ton of them, and I think we're hearing particularly about them with all of the shootings that have been occurring. We'll look at signs that you might see in your workplace of mental health issues. We'll look at the U.S. mental illness statistics, and we'll talk about mental illness as an ADA, American Disabilities Act, protected disability. We'll describe the interactive process required by the ADA, and we'll explore accommodations that are required by the ADA. We'll look at your role, and I'm going to assume that a good share of you, if not all of you that are on today, are in HR. I hope that there's managers, because managers are the first ring, if you will, that will notice these behaviors. This is what we mean by mental health. Now, most of us fit there. Most of us can do this without any problem. Now, are there days where it's like, oh my word, this is not a good day, I'm having a bad hair day? Yes, there certainly is. But it doesn't mean that we are mentally ill. We're going through just a typical human being kind of experience. So what about mental health issues at work? What do you think is that going to be all about? Well, stress. Now, I want you to think about your workplace here. Okay, what is your stress level? Depression. You can bet there are people at work, at your workplace right now, that are depressed. Alcohol. You've got people in your workplace right now that are abusing alcohol, that might have a substance abuse issue. What about smoking or tobacco use? And then marijuana. We've got marijuana that is okayed legally for entertainment, if you will, in various states. Other states, of course, allow medical marijuana. And then prescription drugs, which, again, could be a substance abuse issue. And then what about gambling? We can have those that are addicted to gambling. So what is mental illness anyway? Well, and this is an important ingredient because it is a condition and it does affect every aspect of our lives. How we think, how we feel, or in other words, our mood. It certainly is going to impact how we relate to others. And that can be how we relate to people at home, how we relate to our friends, how we relate to our colleagues. And every person will have a different experience, even though they may have the same diagnosis. So you may have 3 people with depression, and all 3 of them may exhibit different symptoms. So it can be physical. Yeah, physical. Mental illness very often includes physical symptoms. It can be developmental, and of course, psychosocial. Let's take a look at the general symptoms of anxiety disorders. Well, extreme panic or fear. It can become crippling, and it is persistent. It's not necessarily episodic. You've got it. It's there. You worry. You're uptight. You have these unwanted thoughts related to whatever is causing you the anxiety. You have physical complaints. This is where we're starting to look at how physical issues are part of mental illness, and we don't always think of that. Sweating, trembling, upset stomach, and difficulty speaking. Now, all right, what about in the workplace. What do you do about that? Well, this is difficult to recognize in the workplace because, hey, these people do great work. They work hard. They see themselves as productive employees and that they're appropriate. They tend to blame other people for kinds of problems that might arise even with them because they will see the other person as not as perfect as they are. And the problems then with the OCPD person in the workplace will be pointed out by their coworkers. And if there becomes an actual performance management issue, it sometimes is difficult and you might be ineffective, and you would perhaps then need to think about this as a potential disability, and they might need to go for a psych eval. Now, the signs and symptoms, see if these can be related to by you. So think about your culture and stress. So what is a disability under the ADA anyway? Well, we're going to go through this because you probably know what it is, but it's important. We look at this as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Or look at this, that there is a record of such an impairment, or that you believe, you regard that the employee has an impairment. So what is the business case anyway for the culture of well-being? Well, certainly you're going to have more productivity, higher sales, increased innovation, more profits, lower health care costs, lower turnover, less sick leave, less burnout. That's all a no-brainer, right? So you want to create this culture of well-being because mental wellness matters as much as physical wellness. You're going to have lower medical costs, lower disability costs. Workers' comp, for example, is the injury, is their depression due to something going on at work? Better relationships, increased loyalty and retention, productivity, motivation, all of these things are going to be appreciated when you've got mental wellness. So the EEOC gives guidance on mental health conditions in the workplace. And this is what it's called, and it gives the legal rights for your employees. Use this handout to think about what you will do in assisting your employees that have any mental health conditions, all right? And these are your employees' legal rights. Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions following today's webinar, please feel free to shoot me an email and we can set up a phone chat or something. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.